back to Swiss Army Guitar. I'm Mike Andrews. If you like what I'm doing, please be sure to like and subscribe below. Today I'm going to show you 3 triads that I wish I knew years ago that really helped me open up the neck, and I think it would help you too. They're not 3 new shapes that no one has ever used before. I just wish someone would have taught me how to use them, but it took me years to kind of figure this out myself. And it's my understanding that probably the first most famous electronic jazz guitarist, Charlie Christian, used these to build lines over his jazz progressions, and he used these shapes and altered them to come up with real jazzy different chords to use in his progressions as well. So this is nothing new, but they're definitely easier than bar chords. They opened up the neck for me, and hopefully will for you as well. They help me add variety to my rhythm playing in my playing when I'm playing along with a bassist and another rhythm guitarist. It helps us kind of keep out of each other's way. These tend to be in the higher range on the EQ spectrum, so you don't muddy up the waters with your bass and rhythm. So let's get started with the first triad. Okay, let's start with the A chord. Now, most people, when they start playing guitar, they learn the A chord like this. The middle note right here is an A. And if you watch my video on finding any notes on the guitar, you'll see that that's actually an octave higher from the low A string. And if you go over 2 strings and up 2 frets, you always have an octave. So in that video, I talk about memorizing all the notes on the A string here, because then you can find them on here easily. D, D, E, E, G, G, A, A. So this isn't an A chord because it's that shape. It's an A chord because this is an A right here, and the rest of the notes surrounding it are part of an A chord. Now when I'm playing in my band, and the rhythm guitarist is playing something in A, to kind of stay out of his way and to stay out of the bass player's way, I'll try to play as few notes as possible on higher strings. So I usually will just bar that, and I'll kind of dampen strings with other fingers from this hand and this hand so I can hit it. It takes a little practice to get that kind of accuracy, but play around with it and you'll be able to get that. But this A is A because of where it's at. If I move it up here, it's now B because it went from A sharp, B, now it's C, C sharp, D, etc., etc. In fact, I could play a whole progression A, D, E using just that shape. So A, D, E, back to A. Now, if I take those 3 strings right there and I move them to the 3 up at the very top and I play that same shape, it doesn't even sound like a major chord anymore. And in my 3 steps to mastering the guitar neck video, I talk a lot about how the B string right here is the 5th string down. And it's not tuned to a 4th like the other consecutive strings. Strings right next to each other are a 4th apart, but the B string is only a 3rd. So everything that I play anywhere on the first 4 strings of the neck, the lower 4, if I move that same shape up to the upper 3 or 4, anything on that B string needs to be moved up a fret. So if I take this A shape and I want to move it to here, that's not right because I have to move the middle note up. Now it sounds major, and if you look at that, you'll probably recognize that as a D chord. But this is only a D chord because that middle note is a D. I can move it up here to A, and that's an A chord using that familiar D shape. So you can hear that those are the same exact 3 notes an octave higher. So I could play A here, move that down to a D note, move it up to an E note, and I've got that A, D, E progression there as well. So that's a real useful tool to give my parts variety, to help my parts stand out from the rhythm and the bass, and to not conflict with them and muddy up the waters while we're playing along the EQ spectrum there. Now, there's another third shape that I use a lot, and it's the F chord. That's kind of a hard chord for people to learn initially because you have to bar those upper two strings. And it actually comes from an E chord. If you play an E chord, it's the upper four of those, but instead of playing open strings, pretend I'm barring those and I slide it up, it's now an F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. Okay, now this shape, the root note that you want is on the highest string. So this one is an F because that's an F. This is a G because that's a G. A. So I've got A, B, C, D, there's D, and up here is E. It's hard to play if you don't have a cutout acoustic. Electric guitar, it's much easier to play those shapes, and you can even keep going up with those. But on acoustic, it's a little bit harder to get an E with that F shape. But it can be done. So if I wanted to play the A, D, E progression using that shape, I'd go. And notice that I lift the lowest finger off so I could adjust my finger. You really only need those upper three to really get a triad in there. In all these other shapes, there's only three there on the A shape, there's only three on the D shape, and there's only three on the F shape. And you can get a lot of mileage out of those. If I'm soloing in the key of A, I can use those as good landing notes. That or Charlie Christian, probably the very first famous electronic jazz musician back in the day. From what I understood from interviews with him and people that knew him, they said he kind of used that as his way of getting around the neck as well. He used these shapes. And he knew that he could slide into thirds and that he could play flat sevenths when he was doing little jazzy or blues kind of licks. But anyways, you can get a lot of mileage out of those. And we can even go a step further. Here's the A shape. Now if I take the highest note and lower it a half step to a minor, I've got that somber minor sound. It's still named by that middle note, so this is A minor. I could go B, C minor, C sharp, D minor, D sharp, E minor. And I could play A minor, D minor, E minor, back to A minor. If I do that with the D chord, same thing, highest note, lower it. I'm going to have to readjust my fingers though. I can't lower just that finger. My fingers will get into a knot. So you have to kind of rearrange that. But that middle note still names it. So that's D minor, D sharp, E minor, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A minor. So I can play that A minor, D minor, E minor, back to A minor. Now if you take the F shape, and it's not the higher note this time that you lower. It's actually the middle one right here, the third. You've got major, you lower that a half step, you've got minor. So that's F minor. Now if I go F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, there's A minor, B, C, D minor, and E minor. I just took my finger off there because I don't have a cutaway. But I just need those top three once again. So A minor, D minor, E minor, A minor. So take those and play around with them. If you need to learn the notes on the guitar better, be sure to check out my video on that. And use the A, the D, and the F shapes to find all the major triads all up and down the neck and just lower that top highest note to get your A minor, your D minor, and your F minor shapes for all your minor chords. And just remember that they're all basically built from the same shapes, just when you move them around, you always have to compensate for that B string, and that's the thing that really makes the guitar difficult to learn until you learn how to adapt to that string. Now, 2 ideas for practicing them would be to just take a progression like the one I started out with, A, D, F sharp minor, E, and just, play it different ways. So A, D, F sharp minor, E, and go to another position, go A, D, F sharp minor, E. There's all kinds of places you could do them, and you can do what I did in the performance, just A, D, F sharp minor, and E, and just play like that. Or go through the circle of fifths, and it's kind of fun to do that because it's really weird how the circle of fifths works. Sometimes you don't even have to worry about whether you're playing a major or minor, and it sort of works. So like if you were playing, going from, let's say, C, G, D, and A, you got there's C, G, D, A. Play it somewhere else. C, G, D, A. And it's just really neat how that works. You could even go through the circle of fifths with the minor chords, and that even sounds good. So instead of C, G, D, A, go C minor, G minor, D minor, A. So C minor, G minor, D minor, and then A minor. And that'll work. You can even mix up the minors and majors, because the circle of fifths is all about root movement and bass movement, and it all just kind of makes sense. It's really a neat way to kind of experiment with chords and not think about keys, and you sometimes will come up with chord progression ideas that you might not have thought of before that you could even make into your own songs. But let's try maybe this time, let's do C and then go to G minor and then D major, A minor. So C, G minor, D, A minor, and play that somewhere else. So C, G minor, D, A minor, and just keep playing around like that. But anyways, once again, this is Mike Andrews, Swiss Army Guitar. I hope you enjoyed a shorter video here to just give you some tools to play around with. We'll see you in the next video. Please like and subscribe below, and thank you for watching.